Minji Park sat in the back corner of her history classroom at Riverside High School. She always chose that seat. It made her feel safe and invisible. She was 14 years old and had moved to America from South Korea 3 years ago with her mother. Her father had died in a car accident just before they left their home country. Sometimes Minji still could not believe he was gone. The morning sun came through the tall windows of the old school building. Other students talked and laughed before class started. Minji kept her eyes on her notebook. She had learned that staying quiet was easier. Some students were kind to her, but others made jokes about her accent. They laughed when she pronounced English words wrong. Mrs. Henderson walked into the room. She was a tall woman with gray hair pulled back tight. She wore dark clothes and never smiled much. Mrs. Henderson had been teaching history at Riverside High for 20 years. Everyone knew she was strict, but Minji felt something else from her teacher, something cold, something that made her stomach tight with worry. Mrs. Henderson always seemed annoyed when Minji raised her hand. She would sigh and look away. When Minji answered questions correctly, the teacher would nod quickly and move on. But when other students gave the same answers, Mrs. Henderson praised them. She would say things like excellent thinking or what a smart observation. Minji noticed this difference. It hurt her feelings, but she tried not to think about it too much. The classroom became quiet as Mrs. Henderson put her bag on the desk. She turned to face the students. Her eyes moved across the room slowly. "Good morning, class," Mrs. Henderson said. Her voice was flat and serious. "Today I am giving you an important assignment. This project will count for 30% of your grade this semester." Students sat up straighter. 30% was a lot. Minji felt her heart beat faster. She needed good grades. Her mother worked 2 jobs to pay their bills. Minji wanted to make her proud. She wanted to show that coming to America was worth all the hard times. Mrs. Henderson picked up a stack of papers from her desk. She began handing them out row by row. "You will create a visual presentation about American innovation," she explained. "I want you to research important inventions, discoveries, or achievements that make America great. You will make a presentation board with pictures, facts, and explanations." Minji took the assignment paper when it reached her desk. She read through the requirements carefully. The project needed to be on a large board. It needed at least 10 different facts or examples. It needed pictures or drawings. Students would present their projects to the class in 3 weeks. "This is your chance to show pride in American achievement," Mrs. Henderson continued. She stood at the front of the room with her arms crossed. "I want to see respect for the great minds that built this country, the innovators who made America the greatest nation on earth." Minji thought about the assignment all through class, her mind filled with ideas. That afternoon, she went to the public library after school. The library was her favorite place in the whole town. It was warm and quiet. The librarian, Mrs. Chen, was always nice to her. Minji found the computer section and started researching. She typed American innovation into the search. So many results came up. She saw information about light bulbs, telephones, airplanes, and computers. She read about Henry Ford and Thomas Edison. She learned about the space program and medical discoveries. But then Minji noticed something interesting. Many of the people who helped with these innovations were immigrants. They came from other countries just like her. There was Nikola Tesla from Serbia, Albert Einstein from Germany, and Wang from China. So many others. They all came to America and did amazing things. Minji felt excited. This could be her project topic. She could show how people from all over the world helped make America strong. She could prove that immigrants were not just taking from America. They were giving to it. They were part of what made the country special. She spent 3 hours at the library that day. She printed out information and took careful notes. Mrs. Chen helped her find more books about immigrant inventors and scientists. Minji learned about people who built railroads across the country. She read about doctors who found cures for diseases. She discovered engineers who designed bridges and buildings. When Minji got home that evening, her mother was already gone to her night job at the copy shop. Her mother worked at a grocery store during the day and the copy shop at night. Minji only saw her for a few hours each day. She left a note for her mother about the school project and heated up leftover rice for dinner. Over the next 2 weeks, Minji worked on her project every single day. After school, she went to the library. On weekends, she spent hours cutting, gluing, and organizing information. She could not afford to buy a nice foam board like other students used. Instead, she found a large piece of cardboard behind the grocery store where her mother worked. She cleaned it and covered it with white paper from the dollar store. Minji drew pictures by hand because she could not afford to print color photos. She was actually a good artist. She drew portraits of famous immigrant scientists and inventors. She drew the Brooklyn Bridge, which was designed by a German immigrant. She drew diagrams of inventions. Each drawing took hours, but she made them beautiful. Her mother noticed how hard Minji was working. One night, she came home from the copy shop with something special. "I got permission to laminate some pages for you," her mother said with tired eyes but a warm smile. "Bring your best work tomorrow, and I will make it look professional." Minji hugged her mother tight. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered. She knew her mother was exhausted. Working 2 jobs was so hard, but she still found ways to help. Minji brought her carefully written fact cards and some of her drawings to the copy shop the next day. Her mother laminated them for free during her break. The plastic coating made everything look shiny and official. Minji felt so grateful. She arranged everything on her board with great care. She used a ruler to make sure everything was straight. She wrote a title at the top in her best handwriting, "The American Dream: How Immigrants Built a Nation." She added colorful borders around each section. She attached small ribbon bows in red, white, and blue to the corners. The night before the presentation, Minji stood back and looked at her finished project. It was not as fancy as what some other students would bring. They had parents who could take them to office supply stores. They had color printers at home. They had money to spend on expensive materials. But Minji's project was filled with something else. It was filled with her heart. Every single fact was something she had researched carefully. Every picture was something she had drawn with her own hands. Every word was something she truly believed. She had learned so much. She felt proud of what she created. She also thought about her father. He had been an engineer in Korea. He worked on solar energy projects. He always told Minji that smart people existed everywhere in the world. He said that when people worked together, they could do amazing things. He would have loved this project. Minji carefully wrapped her presentation board in an old sheet to protect it. She placed it gently by the door so she would not forget it in the morning. She set her alarm extra early. She wanted to get to school before class started so she could set everything up perfectly. That night, Minji could not sleep well. She was nervous but also excited. She had worked so hard. She knew her information was good. She hoped Mrs. Henderson would finally see that she was a serious student. Maybe this project would change how the teacher saw her. Minji did not know that the next day would change her life forever. She did not know that something terrible was about to happen. She did not know that her teacher's hate would be revealed for everyone to see. She only knew that she had done her best work. And she believed that doing your best was always enough. The moon shined through her bedroom window. Minji finally fell asleep, holding on to hope for tomorrow. Minji woke up before her alarm went off. The sun was just starting to rise. She felt butterflies in her stomach. Today was presentation day. She got dressed quickly in her best clothes. She wore a blue sweater her mother had bought her for the start of school and her nicest jeans. She wanted to look professional. Her mother had already left for her morning shift at the grocery store. But there was a note on the kitchen table. "Good luck today, my precious daughter. You worked so hard. I am so proud of you. Love, Mom." Next to the note was $5. Minji knew her mother needed every dollar they had. The fact that she left this money made tears come to Minji's eyes. She put the money in her pocket and promised herself she would make her mother proud. Minji ate a quick breakfast of toast and walked to school early. She carried her presentation board carefully. The morning was cold, and she had to walk slowly so the wind would not damage her work. Other students passed her on bikes or in their parents' cars. She did not mind walking. She was used to it. She reached school 30 minutes before class started. The hallways were still quiet. Minji went straight to the history classroom. Mrs. Henderson was already there, sitting at her desk and drinking coffee. She looked up when Minji walked in. "You are early," Mrs. Henderson said. Her voice had no warmth in it. Yes, ma'am, Minji replied quietly. I wanted to set up my presentation before other students arrive. Mrs. Henderson waved her hand toward the front of the room. Fine. Put it over there with the others. Minji saw 3 other presentation boards already lined up against the wall. They looked expensive. One was on a professional trifold board with printed photos. Another had plastic pockets and typed labels. The third one had a battery-powered light attached to it. Minji's simple cardboard board suddenly seemed small and poor next to them. But she took a deep breath and placed her board carefully with the others. She stepped back and looked at it. Yes, it was simpler, but it was still good. She knew the information was excellent. That was what mattered most. Students began arriving for class. Minji went back to her usual seat in the corner. Her friend Sarah Chen came in and sat next to her. Sarah was Chinese American and had been kind to Minji since her first day at Riverside High. Is that yours? Sarah whispered, pointing at the boards. Which one? The one on the end, Minji said quietly. The one about immigrants. Sarah smiled. I cannot wait to hear it. I bet it is really good. The bell rang. Mrs. Henderson stood up and walked to the front of the classroom. She took a long sip of her coffee and then set the cup down with a loud sound. Good morning, class, she said. Today you will present your projects on American innovation. I will call you up one at a time. You will have 5 minutes to present. I will be grading you on your knowledge, your presentation skills, and the quality of your visual board. Mrs. Henderson picked up her gradebook and a red pen. Minji's stomach felt tight. She hated that red pen. Mrs. Henderson used it to mark wrong answers and write harsh comments. First up, Brandon Mitchell, Mrs. Henderson announced. Brandon was one of the popular students. His father owned a car dealership in town. Brandon walked confidently to the front and picked up his board. It was the one with the battery-powered light. Brandon talked about the invention of the automobile. His board had shiny printed photos of old cars and modern cars. Everything was perfectly typed. The little light made his title glow. He spoke clearly and smiled at the class. When Brandon finished, Mrs. Henderson clapped her hands. Excellent work, Brandon, she said with a big smile. You clearly put a lot of effort into this. The presentation was professional and well-researched. I am very impressed. A+. Brandon looked pleased with himself as he went back to his seat. Mrs. Henderson called up 3 more students. Each of them had nice boards with printed materials. Each of them talked about American inventors like Thomas Edison, the Wright brothers, and Alexander Graham Bell. Mrs. Henderson praised every single one. She called them wonderful and outstanding. Then she called Jessica Montgomery. Jessica was a quiet girl who sat in the middle of the room. Her board was simpler, made from poster board. She had drawn some of her pictures by hand. She talked about American music and how jazz was invented in America. Mrs. Henderson listened with her arms crossed. When Jessica finished, the teacher did not clap. She just made some marks in her gradebook. That was adequate, Mrs. Henderson said, though I would have preferred you focus on more serious innovations. Music is not quite what I meant by American achievement. B-. Jessica looked hurt as she returned to her seat. Minji felt bad for her. Jessica's project was actually interesting. But Mrs. Henderson did not seem to care. More students presented. Minji noticed a pattern. The wealthy students with expensive boards got A grades and lots of praise. The students with simpler projects got lower grades and criticism. It did not seem to matter how good the information was. It only seemed to matter how much money was spent on materials. Finally, Mrs. Henderson called Minji's name. Minji Park, she said, pronouncing the name wrong like she always did. She said Minji instead of Minji. Minji stood up. Her legs felt shaky. She walked to the front of the room and picked up her board. She could feel everyone's eyes on her. She set up the board on the easel and turned to face the class. My project is about immigrant contributions to American innovation, Minji began. Her voice was soft at first, but she made herself speak louder. Many people think American achievements only come from people who were born here. But that is not true. Immigrants helped build this country and make it great. She pointed to her first section. The Transcontinental Railroad was built by thousands of Chinese immigrants. They worked in dangerous conditions. Many died. But they connected the East Coast to the West Coast. This helped America grow and become powerful. Minji moved to the next section. Her confidence was growing. Nikola Tesla came from Serbia. He invented the alternating current electrical system that powers our homes today. Albert Einstein came from Germany. His theories helped us understand the universe and led to many technologies we use now. She continued through her board. She talked about immigrant doctors who found cures for diseases. She talked about engineers who designed famous buildings. She talked about scientists who worked on the space program. She even talked about her own father, who worked on solar energy in Korea before he died. My father always said that smart people come from everywhere, Minji said. Her voice was clear now. He said America is special because it welcomes people from all nations. And those people bring their talents and dreams together. Everyone builds something better. The classroom was silent. Students were actually listening. Some were leaning forward in their seats. Even students who usually did not pay attention looked interested. Sarah was smiling at her proudly. Minji felt good. She had done it. She had shared her research. She had spoken clearly. Her board might be simple, but her message was powerful. Then she looked at Mrs. Henderson. The teacher's face was red. Her eyes were narrow and cold. Her lips were pressed together in a tight line. She did not look impressed. She looked angry. "That is enough," Mrs. Henderson said sharply. Minji stopped talking. "But I have 2 more sections to explain," she said. "I said that is enough," Mrs. Henderson repeated. She stood up from her desk. "This is supposed to be about American innovation, not about foreigners trying to take credit for our achievements." The room became even more quiet. Students looked at each other with wide eyes. Minji felt confused. "But ma'am, immigrants are Americans too," she said carefully. "They became citizens. They lived here. They contributed to the country." Mrs. Henderson's face got redder. She walked toward the front of the room with heavy steps. "This is typical," she said loudly. "Typical of people who come here and try to rewrite our history. America was built by Americans, by real Americans, not by people who just showed up." Minji's heart was pounding. She felt scared but also angry. "Ma'am, I researched all of this carefully. These are historical facts. These people did invent these things. They did build these things." "I do not care what you researched," Mrs. Henderson said. She was standing very close now. "This project is disrespectful. It is an insult to true American achievement. You have completely missed the point of the assignment." Sarah raised her hand from her seat. "Mrs. Henderson, Minji's information is correct," she said bravely. "I learned about some of these same people in my science class." "Sit down and be quiet, Miss Chen," Mrs. Henderson snapped, "unless you want detention." Sarah sat back but looked angry. Other students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Everyone could feel that something was very wrong. This was more than just a teacher disagreeing with a project. This felt personal. This felt mean. Minji stood frozen at the front of the room. She did not know what to do. She had worked so hard. She had spent 3 weeks on this project. She had used money her family could not afford to spend. She had stayed up late every night. And now her teacher was saying it was all wrong, all worthless, all. "Ma'am, please," Minji said. Her voice was shaking now. "Can I at least finish presenting? Then you can grade it however you want." Mrs. Henderson stared at her with cold eyes. The silence in the room felt heavy and terrible. Everyone waited to see what would happen next. Then Mrs. Henderson did something no one expected. She reached out and grabbed Minji's presentation board from the easel. She lifted it up with both hands. "No, you cannot finish," Mrs. Henderson said. "Because this project is inappropriate, it is offensive, and I will not allow it in my classroom." Minji's eyes went wide. "Mrs. Henderson, please, that is my project. I worked so hard on it." But the teacher was not listening. She held the board up high. And then, in front of the entire class, she began to tear it apart. The sound of ripping cardboard filled the silent room. Students gasped. Someone said, "Oh my God," under their breath. Minji reached out her hands as if to stop what was happening, but she was too shocked to move. Mrs. Henderson tore the board down the middle. The laminated fact cards her mother had helped with scattered on the floor. The hand-drawn pictures that took Minji hours to create ripped in half. The ribbons fell loose. Everything Minji had built was being destroyed right in front of her eyes. Tears started running down Minji's face. She could not stop them. She watched as 3 weeks of work became a pile of trash. Mrs. Henderson kept tearing. She ripped through the carefully arranged sections. She tore apart the pictures Minji had drawn by hand. The sound of ripping cardboard and paper was loud in the silent classroom. Each tear felt like it was ripping through Minji's heart. The laminated cards that her mother had helped prepare fell to the floor. Some landed face up, showing the facts about immigrant scientists. Others landed face down. Mrs. Henderson stepped on them with her heavy shoes as she continued destroying the board. Minji stood completely still. Tears poured down her face. She wanted to scream. She wanted to grab the board and run away. But her body would not move. She felt frozen by shock and horror. The other students sat like statues in their seats. No one knew what to do. This was their teacher. Teachers had power. Teachers could give detention or failing grades. But everyone could see that what was happening was wrong. Very wrong. Sarah Chen was the first to find her voice. "Mrs. Henderson, stop," she called out. She started to stand up from her seat. Mrs. Henderson whipped her head around. "Miss Chen, sit down immediately," she said in a voice like ice. "One more word from you and you will have detention for a week." Sarah stayed standing. "But this is not right," she said. Her voice shook, but she kept talking. "Minji worked really hard. You cannot just destroy her project. I can do whatever I decide is appropriate in my classroom," Mrs. Henderson shot back. "And this project is not appropriate. It is propaganda. It is an attempt to diminish American achievement." Marcus Johnson, a tall black student who sat near the front, spoke up next. "Mrs. Henderson, everything Minji said was true. Those people really did invent those things. It is just history." Mrs. Henderson's face turned even redder. "Mr. Johnson, you clearly do not understand what real American values are either," she said. "Perhaps you need to spend more time studying what makes this country great instead of defending false narratives." Emily Rodriguez, a Latina girl who was usually very quiet, raised her hand. "Mrs. Henderson, my grandfather came from Mexico. He worked hard here. Does that mean he did not contribute to America?" Mrs. Henderson slammed what was left of Minji's board onto her desk. The remaining pieces scattered. "That is enough," she shouted. "All of you are missing the point. This is about American innovation. Americans who were born here, people whose families built this nation from the beginning, not people who just arrived and want to claim our achievements as their own." The classroom exploded with whispers. Students turned to each other with shocked faces. Some looked angry. Others looked scared. Everyone knew they were witnessing something terrible. Minji finally found her voice. It came out as a whisper. "I am American," she said. "I live here. I go to school here. This is my country too." Mrs. Henderson turned to her with cold eyes. "You are a visitor," she said slowly and clearly. "You come from somewhere else, and you need to learn respect for the country that allowed you in." Those words hit Minji like a punch. A visitor. After 3 years of living here. After losing her father and starting a new life. After her mother worked 2 jobs to build a future here. They were just visitors. Not welcome. Not wanted. Mrs. Henderson walked to the trash can beside her desk. She picked up all the torn pieces of Minji's project. The cardboard. The laminated cards. The hand-drawn pictures. The ribbons. Everything. She held them over the trash can. "This is where propaganda belongs," Mrs. Henderson said. She dropped everything into the trash. The pieces landed with soft thuds. 3 weeks of work, all in the garbage. "You will receive a failing grade for this assignment," Mrs. Henderson continued. "Perhaps this will teach you to show proper respect for American values. Perhaps it will teach you to follow instructions instead of pushing your own agenda." Minji could not breathe. A failing grade, 30% of her semester grade. She needed good grades for college. Her mother worked so hard so Minji could have opportunities. And now, because of this, her grade would drop so much. But more than the grade, it was the humiliation. It was the hate she felt coming from her teacher. It was the message that she did not belong, that she was not good enough, that no matter how hard she worked, she would never be accepted. Something broke inside Minji. The tears that had been flowing quietly became sobs. Her shoulders shook. She could not stop crying. She could not stand there anymore in front of everyone while her teacher looked at her with such disgust. Minji turned and ran. She ran out of the classroom. The door slammed behind her. She ran down the hallway, not caring if she got in trouble for leaving class without permission. She ran past the office. She ran past other classrooms. She just needed to get away. She found the girls' bathroom on the second floor. It was usually empty during class time. She pushed through the door and went into the last stall. She locked the door and collapsed against the wall. Her whole body shook with crying. All that work, all those hours at the library, all the careful drawing and writing, her mother staying late at the copy shop to laminate pages, the $5 her mother left that morning. Everything was destroyed, and it was not just about the project. It was about what the destruction meant. Mrs. Henderson hated her. The teacher hated her because she was Korean, because she was an immigrant, because she dared to speak up about immigrant contributions. The teacher wanted her to be quiet and invisible, wanted her to accept that she was less than, that she did not belong. Minji heard the bathroom door open. She tried to quiet her sobs. She did not want anyone to hear her. "Minji?" It was Sarah's voice. "Minji, are you in here?" "Sarah, you should go back to class," Minji said through her tears. "You will get in trouble. I do not care," Sarah said. "Marcus and Emily are here too. We all walked out after you left. Mrs. Henderson was yelling, but we just left." Minji heard two more voices. Marcus and Emily had come too. She unlocked the stall door and stepped out. All three of her classmates stood there looking at her with worried faces. Sarah immediately hugged her. "I am so sorry," Sarah said. "What she did was so wrong, so completely wrong." "That was not okay," Marcus said firmly. He looked angry. "My mom is a lawyer. What Mrs. Henderson did was discrimination. You could report her." Emily nodded. "My dad is on the school board. If I tell him what happened, he will do something about it." Minji wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "It will not matter," she said sadly. "She is the teacher. I am just a student. And everyone knows Principal Morrison is her cousin. They are family. No one will believe me over her." "We all saw it," Sarah insisted. "Every student in that class saw what she did. They heard what she said. We can all tell what happened." "And then what?" Minji asked. "She will say I was being disrespectful. She will say my project was wrong. She will make me look bad, and I will still have a failing grade. My mother worked so hard for me. How can I tell her I failed?" Marcus pulled out his phone. "Wait," he said. He was scrolling through something. His eyes got wide. "Oh my God." "What?" Sarah asked. Marcus held up his phone. "I was recording earlier, remember? I recorded my own presentation because my little brother wanted to see it. I left my phone recording by accident. I just found it in my backpack." "So?" Minji asked. Marcus's voice got excited. "So it was recording during your presentation. It recorded everything. I can hear Mrs. Henderson's voice. I can hear her saying those things about immigrants. I can hear the sound of her tearing up your project." Everyone went quiet. They looked at the phone in Marcus's hand like it was something magical. "Play it," Emily said. Marcus touched the screen. They all leaned in close. The recording was a bit muffled because the phone had been in Marcus's backpack, but the voices were clear enough. They could hear Minji presenting. They could hear Mrs. Henderson interrupting. They could hear the teacher saying foreigners trying to take credit and you are a visitor. Then they heard the terrible sound of ripping cardboard. They heard Minji's voice saying please. They heard Mrs. Henderson saying propaganda. And failing grade, Sarah looked up with fierce eyes. "This is evidence," she said. "This proves what she did. This proves what she said." Minji felt a tiny spark of hope, but then reality set in. "What can we do with it?" she asked. "If we show Principal Morrison, he will just protect his cousin. If we show the school board, they will say we made it up or took it out of context." "What if we did not show them first?" Emily said slowly. Everyone turned to look at her. "What if we showed everyone? Like, everyone in town?" "What do you mean?" Marcus asked. Emily's eyes were bright with an idea. "My older sister posts stuff on social media all the time. She has like 2,000 followers. When people see something wrong happening, they share it. It spreads. What if we posted this video online?" Minji's heart started beating faster. "That seems scary," she said. "What if it makes things worse?" Sarah shook her head. "How could things be worse? Mrs. Henderson already destroyed your project and gave you a failing grade. She already humiliated you in front of the whole class, and she will keep doing things like this to other students. Someone has to stop her." Marcus looked at Minji seriously. "It should be your choice," he said. "It is your project, your video, your story. We will support whatever you decide." Minji thought about it. She thought about her mother working 2 jobs. She thought about all the other students who might face Mrs. Henderson's hate. She thought about her father, who always taught her to stand up for what was right. She thought about the message she wanted to send about whether she had value and whether she belonged. "I am scared," Minji admitted. "I do not want more attention. I do not want to make trouble." "You did not make the trouble," Emily said gently. "Mrs. Henderson made the trouble. You were just doing your homework. She was the one who made it about race and immigration." Minji took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking, but she nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "Let us do it. Let us show people what really happens in that classroom." Marcus sent the video file to his phone. Sarah helped Emily figure out the best way to post it. They decided to put it on multiple platforms. They would add text explaining what happened. They would tag it with words like racism in schools and discrimination and immigrant rights. Emily typed out the description while the others watched. "Racist teacher destroys immigrant student's project and uses slurs. This happened today at Riverside High School. The student worked for 3 weeks on this project. The teacher tore it up in front of the whole class. Please share so people know what is happening in our schools." "Should we put Minji's name?" Sarah asked. Minji thought about it. "Yes," she said. "Put my name. I am not ashamed. I did nothing wrong." They posted the video at 10:47 in the morning. None of them knew what would happen next. They did not know that by the end of the day, thousands of people would see it. They did not know that news reporters would show up at the school. They did not know that Minji's life was about to change completely. For now, they just stood together in the bathroom. 4 teenagers who saw something wrong and decided to do something about it. 4 students who were scared but brave. "What should we do now?" Marcus asked. "I guess we should go to the office and explain why we left class," Sarah said. They walked together down the hallway. Minji was in the middle with her 3 friends around her like protection. She still felt hurt. She still felt humiliated. The tears still wanted to come, but she also felt something new. She felt like maybe she was not alone. Maybe there were people who would stand with her. Maybe her voice mattered after all. When they reached the office, the secretary looked up with a frown. "Why are you 4 out of class?" she asked. Before anyone else could speak, Minji stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but clear. "We need to speak to Principal Morrison," she said. "Something happened in Mrs. Henderson's class. Something he needs to know about." The secretary picked up the phone. "I will see if he is available," she said. The 4 students sat down in the plastic chairs outside the principal's office. They held hands. They waited. They did not know that in just a few hours, their video would be shared 1,000 times. They did not know that by evening local news stations would be calling the school. All they knew was that they had done what they thought was right, and now they would face whatever came next together. Principal Morrison finally called them into his office at 11:15. He was a heavy man with thin hair and glasses. He sat behind a large wooden desk covered with papers. He did not look happy to see 4 students standing in his doorway during class time. "Sit down," he said, pointing at the chairs in front of his desk. There were only 3 chairs, so Marcus stood behind the others. "Now explain why you all walked out of Mrs. Henderson's class without permission." Minji opened her mouth to speak, but her voice would not come out. She felt small in this big office with this big man staring at her. Sarah spoke instead. "Mrs. Henderson destroyed Minji's project, sir. She tore it up in front of the whole class." Principal Morrison frowned. "I am sure there was a reason. What was wrong with the project?" "Nothing was wrong with it," Emily said. "Minji did everything the assignment asked. She worked for 3 weeks on it." "Then why would Mrs. Henderson have a problem with it?" the principal asked. He was looking at them like they were making up stories. Marcus pulled out his phone. "Because Minji's project was about immigrant contributions to America. And Mrs. Henderson said it was inappropriate. She said immigrants were trying to take credit for American achievements. She called it propaganda." Principal Morrison's face changed slightly. "Those are serious accusations," he said carefully. "Mrs. Henderson is an experienced teacher. I find it hard to believe she would say something like that." "We have proof," Marcus said. He held up his phone. "I recorded it by accident. You can hear everything she said. You can hear her tearing up the project." The principal's eyes narrowed. "You recorded in class without permission? That is against school policy." "It was an accident," Marcus explained. "I was recording my own presentation earlier for my brother. I forgot my phone was still recording." "Let me see," Principal Morrison said, reaching for the phone. Marcus pulled it back. "First, I want to know what you will do about it. Mrs. Henderson gave Minji a failing grade. She humiliated her. She said racist things. What will happen to the teacher?" Principal Morrison's face turned red. "Young man, you do not make demands in my office. Give me that phone right now." "No, sir," Marcus said. His voice was respectful but firm. "This is my phone, and I already sent the video to several places, so even if you take my phone, the video still exists." The principal stood up from his desk. "Are you threatening me?" "No, sir," Marcus said. "I am just telling you the truth. What Mrs. Henderson did was wrong. And if the school does not do something about it, other people will know about it." Principal Morrison stared at Marcus for a long moment. Then he sat back down heavily. He rubbed his face with his hands. "Where did you send this video?" he asked quietly. Emily spoke up. "We posted it online, on social media. We wanted people to see what really happens in this school." The principal's face went white. "You did what? When?" "About half an hour ago," Emily said. Principal Morrison grabbed his phone from his desk. He typed something quickly. His face got more and more pale as he looked at the screen. "Oh no," he whispered. "Oh no, no, no." The students looked at each other. Something was happening. Something big. "How many people have seen it?" Sarah asked. The principal did not answer. He was frantically typing on his phone. Then his office phone rang. He picked it up. "Yes? What? Tell them I am not available. No, do not transfer any calls. What do you mean there are reporters? Reporters where?" The student's eyes went wide. "Reporters?" Principal Morrison hung up the phone. It immediately rang again. He ignored it. He looked at the 4 students like he did not know what to do with them. "Go back to class," he finally said. "All of you. We will discuss this later." "What about Minji's grade?" Sarah asked. "What about Mrs. Henderson?" "I said go back to class," the principal shouted. "Now." They left the office quickly. As soon as they got into the hallway, they looked at each other with excited and scared faces. "Did he say reporters?" Emily whispered. Marcus pulled out his phone. His eyes got huge. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" "What?" Minji asked. Marcus turned his phone around so they could all see. The video had been shared over 1,000 times. There were hundreds of comments. People were tagging news stations. They were tagging civil rights organizations. They were tagging education departments. "It is going viral," Sarah said. She sounded amazed and scared at the same time. Minji felt dizzy. "What does that mean? What will happen?" "It means people are paying attention," Marcus said. "Real attention. Look at some of these comments." They huddled around the phone and read. Most comments were supportive. "This teacher should be fired. This poor girl worked so hard. Racism has no place in schools." This made me cry. But there were also some mean comments. "Students are too sensitive." The teacher was probably right. People always play the victim. Minji felt sick reading the negative comments, but the positive ones were so many more. Hundreds of people were defending her. People she had never met were saying that what happened to her was wrong. "We should get to class," Sarah said, looking nervous, "before we get in more trouble." They split up to go to their different classes. Minji went to math class. She was 40 minutes late. Her teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, looked concerned when she walked in. "Minji, where have you been?" he asked gently. Mr. Rodriguez was one of the nice teachers. "I had to go to the principal's office," Minji said quietly. "Something happened in history class." Mr. Rodriguez nodded. "I heard there was some kind of incident. Are you okay? Are you—" Minji did not know how to answer that. Was she okay? Her project was destroyed. Her teacher hated her. Her grade was ruined. A video of the worst moment of her life was spreading across the internet. But somehow, people cared. People were listening. "I am okay," she finally said. She sat down at her desk. The other students whispered to each other. Word was already spreading through the school about what happened. Some students looked at her with pity. Others looked at her with curiosity. A few looked at her with something like respect. Minji tried to focus on the math problems Mr. Rodriguez was teaching, but her mind kept wandering. What was happening right now? Who was seeing the video? What would her mother think when she found out? Her mother. Minji's stomach dropped. Her mother did not know yet. She was at work at the grocery store. She had no idea that her daughter's worst day was becoming public. The rest of the day felt like a dream. Between every class, students came up to Minji. Some wanted to know if the video was real. Others wanted to tell her they supported her. A few told her about their own experiences with Mrs. Henderson's unfairness. "She gave me a C on a paper that was really good," one girl said. "My friend wrote almost the same thing and got an A. The only difference is my family is from Puerto Rico." "She made fun of my accent once," another student shared. "In front of everyone. It made me not want to talk in class anymore." "My brother had her 3 years ago," a senior told Minji. "He is black and she always watched him like she expected him to cause trouble. She never watched the white students that way." Minji realized that she was not the only one. Mrs. Henderson had been treating students unfairly for years, but no one had proof before. No one had a recording. So the teacher kept getting away with it. At lunch, Minji sat with Sarah, Marcus, and Emily in the cafeteria. They all checked their phones constantly. The video had been shared 3,000 times now. News articles were starting to appear online with headlines like, "Teacher caught on video destroying student project," and "Racism in the classroom, video sparks outrage." "My dad texted me," Emily said. "He saw the video. He is calling an emergency school board meeting for tonight." "My mom is furious," Marcus said. "She wants to know if you want her to represent you legally. She said she would do it for free." Minji felt overwhelmed. "I do not know. This is all happening so fast." Sarah put her hand on Minji's shoulder. "You do not have to decide anything right now. Let us just get through today." But getting through the day became harder. At 1:30, Principal Morrison's voice came over the loudspeaker. "Attention students and staff. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we are dismissing school early today. Buses will arrive at 2 so. Parents have been notified. Please proceed to your lockers in an orderly fashion." The cafeteria exploded with noise. Everyone started talking at once. This had never happened before. Why were they sending everyone home early? Minji and her friends went to their lockers. Through the front windows of the school, they could see several news vans parked outside. Reporters with cameras stood on the sidewalk. Some of them were interviewing people. They cannot come inside school property, a teacher explained to a group of nervous students. But they can wait outside. If you do not want to be on camera, use the side exit. Minji definitely did not want to be on camera. She felt scared. This had become so much bigger than she ever imagined. She just wanted to go home, but she could not go home. Her mother would still be at work for 3 more hours. Minji usually went to the library after school and did homework until her mother's shift ended. But today she did not want to go anywhere public. "Come to my house," Sarah offered. "My mom is home. You can wait there until your mom gets off work." Minji gratefully accepted. The 4 friends left through the side exit and walked quickly to Sarah's house. They could hear the reporters shouting questions at other students who left through the front. "Did you witness the incident? What is Minji Park like as a student? Has Mrs. Henderson shown prejudice before?" Sarah's house was only 3 blocks from school. Her mother, Mrs. Chen, met them at the door with a worried face. "I saw the video," Mrs. Chen said, pulling Minji into a hug. "Sweetheart, I am so sorry that happened to you. Come inside. You are safe here." Mrs. Chen made them all hot chocolate and sandwiches. She sat with them at the kitchen table and let them tell the whole story from the beginning. She listened carefully, nodding and making sympathetic sounds. "That teacher was wrong," Mrs. Chen said firmly when they finished. "What she did was not just unprofessional, it was cruel. And yes, it was racist. I am glad you recorded it. People need to see the truth." "But now everyone is talking about it," Minji said. "There are reporters at school. What if they want to interview me? What if they come to my house? My mom does not know yet. How do I tell her?" Mrs. Chen reached across the table and took Minji's hand. "Your mother will understand. She knows how hard you work. She knows you did nothing wrong, and I will help you tell her if you want." At 5 Minji's mother called. She had seen the video too. Someone at the grocery store had shown her on their phone. She was leaving work early and coming to get Minji. When her mother arrived at Sarah's house 20 minutes later, Minji burst into tears again. Her mother held her tight and said soothing words in Korean. "It is okay, baby. Mommy is here. Everything will be okay." Mrs. Chen invited them to stay for dinner, but Minji's mother wanted to go home. They thanked Sarah and her mother and walked to their apartment building 6 blocks away. As they walked, Minji's mother held her hand tightly. "I saw the video," her mother said. "I heard what that woman said to you. I heard her destroy your beautiful project, and I want you to know something important." Minji looked up at her mother. "You are American," her mother said. "This is your country. You belong here just as much as anyone. What that teacher said was wrong, and what you did, sharing that video, was brave." "I am scared, Mom," Minji admitted. "So many people are seeing it. What if something bad happens?" Her mother stopped walking. She turned to face Minji and held both of her hands. "Sometimes when you stand up for what is right, it feels scary. But you did the right thing, and I am so proud of you. So very proud." They walked the rest of the way home in silence. When they got to their small apartment, Minji saw her mother's phone buzzing constantly with messages and calls. The phone number for their apartment had been listed in the school directory. People were finding it. That evening, they turned off the phone. They made simple ramen for dinner. They tried to watch TV and relax. But Minji could not stop thinking about what would happen next. Tomorrow, she would have to go back to school. Would Mrs. Henderson still be there? Would other teachers be angry at her for making the school look bad? Would students treat her differently? Before bed, Minji checked the video one last time on her phone. It had been shared 15,000 times. There were thousands of comments. Several news articles had been written. A hashtag was trending, "Justice for Minji." Minji felt strange seeing her name like that. This was her life, her real pain, her real humiliation. But now it was also a symbol, a conversation, a movement. Minji did not sleep well that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Mrs. Henderson's angry face. She heard the sound of her project being torn apart. She felt the shame and hurt all over again. When morning finally came, she felt exhausted. Her mother had taken the day off from both jobs. This almost never happened. Money was tight, and every workday mattered. But her mother said this was more important. "We need to stay home today," her mother explained at breakfast. "The school called last night. They said you are excused from classes while they investigate what happened. They also said reporters might be looking for us." Minji felt relieved and worried at the same time. Relieved that she did not have to face school yet. Worried about what investigate really meant. Would they try to blame her somehow? At 9 in the morning, there was a knock on the apartment door. Minji's mother looked through the peephole carefully. She opened the door to reveal a woman in a nice suit with kind eyes. "Mrs. Park? I am Linda Martinez from the school district's central office. May I come in and speak with you and Minji?" They invited Ms. Martinez inside. She sat on their old couch and pulled out a folder of papers. She smiled gently at Minji. "First, I want to say how sorry I am about what happened to you," Ms. Martinez began. "What you experienced was unacceptable. The school district takes these matters very seriously." Minji's mother sat close to her daughter on the couch. "What will happen to the teacher?" she asked. "Mrs. Henderson has been placed on administrative leave while we investigate," Ms. Martinez explained. "That means she is not teaching right now. We are interviewing students and staff. We are reviewing her grading records and past complaints. We want to understand if this was an isolated incident or part of a pattern." "It was a pattern," Minji said quietly. "Other students told me about things she did to them too." Ms. Martinez nodded. "We are hearing that. Several students and even some former students have come forward with similar stories since the video was posted. We are documenting everything." "What about Minji's grade?" her mother asked. "She worked so hard on that project. It is not fair that she gets a failing grade." "The failing grade has been removed from her record," Ms. Martinez said. "In fact, we would like to give Minji the opportunity to recreate her project and present it again. To a different teacher, of course, with proper materials and support." Minji felt a small spark of hope. Maybe she could show her research after all. Maybe her work would not be wasted. Ms. Martinez spent another hour asking questions. She asked about Minji's experience in Mrs. Henderson's class throughout the year. She asked about specific comments the teacher had made. She asked if Minji had ever tried to report concerns before. "I was scared to report anything," Minji admitted. "Mrs. Henderson is related to the principal, and I did not think anyone would believe me. I am just a student, just an immigrant. I thought people would think I was making things up." Ms. Martinez looked sad. "I understand why you felt that way. And that is part of the problem we need to fix. Students should never feel afraid to speak up when they are being treated unfairly." After Ms. Martinez left, Minji and her mother sat quietly for a while. They could hear the sounds of their neighbors through the thin walls. A baby crying, someone playing music, normal life happening around them, while their own life felt upside down. "Want to watch some TV?" her mother asked. "Take your mind off things?" They turned on the television. The local morning news was on, and suddenly there was the story. A reporter stood outside Riverside High School. Behind her, students walked into the building. "The controversy continues at Riverside High School," the reporter said. "A video showing a teacher destroying a student's project has sparked outrage across the nation. The teacher, identified as Margaret Henderson, is now on leave while the district investigates allegations of racism and discrimination." The news showed clips from the video. Minji covered her eyes. She did not want to see it again, but she could hear her own voice explaining about immigrant contributions. She could hear Mrs. Henderson's harsh words. She could hear the terrible ripping sound. "We spoke with several parents who say this incident reflects a larger problem in the school system," the reporter continued. The screen showed interviews with angry parents standing outside the school. "My daughter is Mexican American, and she has felt unwelcome in some classes," one mother said. "Teachers need to be trained to respect all students, regardless of where they or their families come from. This teacher has been getting away with this behavior for years, another parent said. It took a viral video for anyone to pay attention. How many students suffered in silence before this? The news segment ended with the reporter saying, "The school board has called an emergency meeting for tonight. The community is demanding answers and action. We will continue to follow this developing story." Minji's mother turned off the TV. "This is bigger than we thought," she said quietly. There was another knock on the door. This time it was Sarah Chen and her mother. Mrs. Chen carried a large basket of food. "We brought lunch," Mrs. Chen said, "and we wanted to see how you are doing." Sarah hugged Minji tight. "Everyone at school is talking about you," Sarah said. "Most people are on your side. There is even a group of students planning to walk out tomorrow in support of you." "Walk out?" Minji asked. "What does that mean?" "It means they will leave class in protest," Sarah explained. "They want to show that students stand together against racism. They made signs last night. Some say justice for Minji, and others say no hate in our schools." Minji felt tears come to her eyes again. But these were different tears. These were tears of gratitude. She had felt so alone and powerless. But she was not alone. Other students cared. Other people were standing up. That afternoon, more visitors came. Marcus and his mother arrived. Marcus's mother was the lawyer who had offered to help. She explained that several organizations wanted to support Minji: civil rights groups, immigrant advocacy groups, education reform organizations. "You have become a symbol," the lawyer explained. "What happened to you happens to too many students. But most of the time, there is no video, no proof. Your situation has opened up an important conversation." "I did not want to be a symbol," Minji said. "I just wanted to do my homework." The lawyer nodded with understanding. "I know, and you do not have to do anything you are not comfortable with. But I want you to know that you have options. If you want to pursue legal action against the school or the teacher, we can help. If you want to speak out publicly, we can support that too. Or if you want to just let the investigation happen quietly, that is also okay." Minji felt overwhelmed. "Can I think about it?" "Of course," the lawyer said. "Take all the time you need." That evening, Minji's mother took her to the school board meeting. The meeting was held in the high school auditorium because so many people wanted to attend. The parking lot was completely full. News vans lined the street. Minji and her mother had to squeeze through the crowd to find seats. The auditorium held 500 people and every seat was taken. People stood along the walls and in the back. Minji recognized some students from school. She saw parents. She saw teachers. She even saw some of her mother's co-workers from the grocery store. The school board members sat at a long table on the stage. Emily's father was one of them. He looked serious and concerned. Principal Morrison sat off to the side, looking uncomfortable. The board president, a woman named Dr. Williams, called the meeting to order. "Thank you all for coming tonight. We know many of you are here because of the incident involving Mrs. Henderson and student Minji Park. We want to assure you that we are taking this matter very seriously." People in the audience shouted things. "Fire her." "This has been going on for years." "Protect our children." Dr. Williams held up her hand for quiet. "We will have a public comment period where you can share your thoughts. But first, let me explain what steps we are taking. Mrs. Henderson is on administrative leave pending investigation. We have hired an independent investigator to review her conduct and teaching practices. We are examining complaints and grading patterns, and we are implementing mandatory anti-discrimination training for all staff. The public comment period lasted 2 hours. Person after person came to the microphone. Many were parents sharing stories of how Mrs. Henderson or other teachers had treated their children unfairly. Some were former students talking about experiences from years ago. A black father told about how Mrs. Henderson had assumed his son was not smart enough for advanced classes, even though he had straight A grades everywhere else. A Latina mother described how the teacher had mispronounced her daughter's name all year, even after being corrected many times. A white mother admitted that her own child had received preferential treatment and better grades, and she now realized it was not fair. Current students spoke too. Marcus talked about witnessing the incident. Sarah described the pattern of bias she had seen. Emily explained how scared students had been to report problems because they did not think anyone would listen. Then the board president asked, "Is Minji Park here tonight? Would you like to say anything?" Minji's heart started pounding. Everyone turned to look at her. She felt her mother's hand squeeze hers encouragingly. Sarah, who was sitting a few rows back, gave her a thumbs up. Minji stood up slowly. Her legs felt shaky as she walked down the aisle to the microphone on the floor. The auditorium went completely silent. Hundreds of eyes watched her. She reached the microphone. It was adjusted for adults, so she had to reach up to speak into it. Her voice came out small at first. "My name is Minji Park. I am a freshman at Riverside High School. I came to America from South Korea 3 years ago with my mother. My father died before we moved here." She paused and took a breath. Her hands gripped the microphone stand. "I worked really hard on my history project. I spent 3 weeks researching immigrant contributions to America. I wanted to show that people from all countries helped build this nation. I wanted to show that immigrants are not taking from America. We are giving to America." Her voice got stronger. "Mrs. Henderson destroyed my project in front of my whole class. She said it was propaganda. She said immigrants were trying to take credit for American achievements. She told me I was a visitor, that I did not belong here." Minji felt tears on her cheeks, but she kept talking. "What hurt most was not the failing grade. What hurt most was the message that no matter how hard I work, no matter what I achieve, I will never be good enough. I will never be American enough. I will always be seen as an outsider." The auditorium was so quiet you could hear people breathing, but then something happened that I did not expect. When the video was posted, people cared. Students stood up for me. Parents believed me. People I never met sent messages of support. And I realized that Mrs. Henderson was wrong. I do belong here. This is my country too. And I have just as much right to be here as anyone. Minji looked at the school board members. "I do not want what happened to me to happen to other students. I want teachers who respect all students. I want a school where everyone feels safe and valued. Not just students who look a certain way or come from certain families. Everyone." She stepped back from the microphone. The auditorium exploded with applause. People stood up and clapped. Some people were crying. Minji walked back to her seat with her head up. Her mother hugged her tight and whispered, "I'm so proud of you." After the public comments ended, the school board had a discussion. They talked about policies and procedures. They talked about training and accountability. They talked about making the school more inclusive and welcoming. Finally, Dr. Williams announced, "Based on what we have heard tonight and what our investigation has revealed so far, we are moving forward with termination proceedings for Mrs. Henderson. The evidence of discriminatory conduct is substantial and cannot be ignored." More applause filled the auditorium. But Dr. Williams continued, "However, we also recognize that this is not just about one teacher. This is about a culture that allowed this behavior to continue for too long. We failed to create an environment where students felt comfortable reporting discrimination. We failed to properly investigate complaints. We failed Minji Park and many other students. And for that, we apologize." She looked directly at Minji. "We will do better. We promise you that." The meeting ended at 10:30 at night. As people filed out of the auditorium, many stopped to talk to Minji. They thanked her for being brave. They told her their own stories. They offered support and encouragement. One elderly Korean woman approached with tears in her eyes. She spoke in Korean to Minji's mother. Minji understood enough to know she was saying, "Your daughter is so brave. She makes our whole community proud." A representative from the Korean American Business Association gave them a business card. "We want to help Minji recreate her project properly," he said. "We will provide whatever materials she needs, and we would like to sponsor a scholarship in her name for other immigrant students." Minji felt dizzy from all the attention and emotion. When they finally made it to their car, she collapsed into the passenger seat. The day after the school board meeting, Minji woke up to find her mother reading emails on her phone at the kitchen table. Her mother looked amazed. "So many people want to help you," her mother said. "Look at all these messages." Minji sat down and looked at the screen. There were dozens of emails. The art supply store downtown wanted to donate materials for her new project. The public library offered her their community room to work in. College students from the nearby university volunteered to help with research and design. A professional graphic designer offered to teach Minji how to make her presentation look polished. "This is too much," Minji said. "I do not deserve all this help." Her mother shook her head firmly. "You deserve every bit of it. You stood up for what was right. Now people want to stand with you." That morning, the Korean American Business Association came to their apartment. Mr. Kim, the president, brought his teenage daughter Ji-won with him. Ji-won was a senior in high school and wanted to study design in college. "We want to help you make the best presentation possible," Mr. Kim said. "Not just good, the absolute best. We want everyone to see that your message matters, that immigrant stories matter." They took Minji to the art supply store that afternoon. The owner, Mrs. Rodriguez, greeted them with a big smile. "Pick whatever you need," she said. "Do not worry about the cost. Consider it my investment in justice." Minji walked through the aisles feeling like she was in a dream. There were professional foam boards in every color, fancy markers and pens, special paper that felt smooth and expensive, stickers and decorative elements. Things she had only looked at before but never touched because they cost too much. Ji-won helped her choose. "For a presentation like this, you want a black trifold board," Ji-won explained. "Black makes everything else pop. And get these metallic markers for titles. They look really professional." They filled 2 shopping carts with supplies. Minji kept saying, "This is too much, we do not need all this." But Mrs. Rodriguez just laughed and said, "Honey, after what you have been through, you deserve a little too much." At the checkout, the total came to over $300. Minji's mother looked worried about accepting such an expensive gift, but Mr. Kim insisted, "Please, let our community do this. You have given us something more valuable. You have given us pride." The next day, Minji started working on her new project at the public library. Mrs. Chen, the librarian who had always been kind to her, set up the community room with a large table and good lighting. She brought in extra reference books about immigration and American history. Sarah, Marcus, and Emily came after school to help. Ji-won came with her laptop and design software. 2 college students from the university's history department arrived with additional research materials. "Okay," Ji-won said, opening her laptop. "First, we need to plan the layout. You have 3 panels to work with. Let us make this tell a story." They spent 2 hours just planning. The left panel would focus on immigrants who contributed to science and technology. The middle panel would feature those who built infrastructure and shaped American culture. The right panel would highlight immigrants in medicine, arts, and social progress. And at the bottom of the middle panel, Minji said, "I want to include my father. He worked on solar energy. He was an immigrant who tried to help make the world better." Everyone agreed that was perfect. Over the next week, Minji worked on her project every day after school. The community room became like a second home. Her team of volunteers rotated in and out, each contributing their skills. The college students helped her verify facts and find primary sources. They made sure every statement could be backed up with solid research. Ji-won taught her how to use design software to create professional-looking graphics. The graphic designer showed her principles of visual balance and color theory. One afternoon, a photographer from the local newspaper came by. "I would like to document your process," she explained. "Not for a news story, just to show how a community comes together to support one of their own." The photographer took pictures of Minji working. Minji carefully cutting and arranging elements. Minji discussing ideas with her volunteers. Minji's mother bringing snacks and encouragement. The photos captured something beautiful. They showed people of different ages and backgrounds all focused on one goal, helping a young girl's voice be heard. Meanwhile, the investigation into Mrs. Henderson was progressing. Ms. Martinez, the district investigator, came by the library one day to update Minji. "We have interviewed over 40 people," Ms. Martinez said. "Current students, former students, parents, and staff members. A pattern has definitely emerged." She pulled out a folder. Mrs. Henderson consistently graded students of color more harshly than white students. We compared essays and tests. When students gave similar answers, minority students received lower grades. The difference was sometimes a full letter grade. Minji felt sick but also validated. She was not imagining it. It was real. We also found documentation of previous complaints that were not properly investigated, Ms. Martinez continued. 3 parents filed formal complaints in the past 5 years. But because Mrs. Henderson is Principal Morrison's cousin, those complaints were dismissed or minimized. What will happen to Principal Morrison? Minji asked. That is being reviewed at a higher level, Ms. Martinez said. His failure to properly handle complaints is a serious issue. At minimum, he will face disciplinary action. He may also be reassigned to a different school. Ms. Martinez looked at Minji seriously. I want to thank you. Because you were brave enough to let that video be shared, we were able to uncover a much larger problem. You probably saved future students from experiencing what you went through. After 2 weeks of intensive work, Minji's new presentation was finished. It was magnificent. The trifold board looked like something from a museum. Each panel had a professional layout with clear sections and beautiful graphics. The left panel featured scientists and inventors. Nikola Tesla with his electrical innovations, Albert Einstein and his revolutionary theories, and Wang and his contributions to computing. Each person had a photo, a brief biography, and a description of their achievements. The text was printed on high-quality paper with a subtle texture. The middle panel focused on builders and cultural contributors, Chinese railroad workers, Italian stonemasons who built landmarks, Mexican agricultural workers who helped feed the nation. Each section included historical photos and compelling facts. At the bottom was a special tribute to Minji's father, with his photo and a description of his solar energy work. The right panel highlighted medicine, arts, and social progress. Doctors who found treatments for diseases, artists who enriched American culture, activists who fought for justice. The panel ended with a quote, "America's strength comes not from one group but from many voices united in common purpose." But the presentation was more than just a visual board. Jiwon had helped Minji create a digital component too. Using a tablet, viewers could scan QR codes on the board to access additional information, videos, primary source documents, interactive timelines. It was a 21st century presentation that honored the past while looking to the future. The night before Minji was scheduled to present her project to a new committee of teachers, she stood in the library looking at her work. Mrs. Chen came and stood beside her. "It is beautiful," Mrs. Chen said softly. "But you know what makes it truly special?" "What?" Minji asked. "It shows the truth," Mrs. Chen said. "The truth that Mrs. Henderson tried to destroy. But truth is stronger than hate. Always." The next day, Minji dressed in her best clothes again. But this time she did not feel nervous. She felt proud. Her mother had taken the day off work to come watch. Sarah, Marcus, and Emily were excused from their classes to attend. Jiwon came, along with Mr. Kim and several other members of the Korean American Business Association. Mrs. Chen was there. Mrs. Rodriguez from the art supply store came. Even some of the college students who had helped with research showed up. The presentation was scheduled for the school library, but so many people wanted to attend that they had to move it to the auditorium. Minji carried her board carefully, with Marcus and Sarah helping. They set it up on the stage under bright lights. The committee of teachers sat in the front row. They included the head of the history department, the principal of the middle school, and several other respected educators. Ms. Martinez was there to observe. Even Dr. Williams from the school board came to watch. Minji stepped up to the microphone. She looked out at the audience. So many supportive faces. So much love and encouragement. She thought about how different this moment was from that terrible day in Mrs. Henderson's classroom. "Good morning," Minji began. Her voice was strong and clear. "Thank you all for being here. Today I want to share with you the presentation that I originally created for my history class, the one that was destroyed. But this time, it is bigger and better. This time it has been built with the help of an entire community." For the next 20 minutes, Minji presented her research. She spoke with confidence and passion. She used the tablet to show additional materials. She told stories about individual immigrants and their contributions. She explained how diversity had always been America's greatest strength, not a weakness to fear. When she got to the section about her father, her voice wavered slightly. My father, Park Sung-min, was an engineer in Korea. He worked on sustainable energy before most people even talked about climate change. He dreamed of coming to America where he could work on bigger projects and make a bigger impact. He died before he could achieve that dream. But his daughter is here. I am here. And I am working to make his dreams come true through my own life, she concluded with a powerful message. Mrs. Henderson tried to tell me that immigrants do not belong in the story of American achievement. She tried to silence me. She tried to make me feel small and unwelcome. But she was wrong. We do belong. Our stories matter. Our contributions count. And no one can tear that truth away from us. The auditorium erupted in applause. People stood up and clapped for a full 2 minutes. Minji saw tears on many faces, including her mother's. She saw pride in the eyes of the Korean American community members. She saw respect from the teachers who were evaluating her. The head of the history department came up on stage. Minji, that was extraordinary, she said. Not just the visual presentation, which is truly professional, but your research, your delivery, your message. This is A+ work. Actually, it is beyond A+. This is the kind of presentation that should be shared with the entire school. Ms. Martinez approached next. I want you to know that your original video and this new presentation have been instrumental in our investigation. The school board has officially terminated Mrs. Henderson's employment. She will not teach in this district again. There was more applause at this news. Minji felt relief wash over her. It was really over. Mrs. Henderson could not hurt any more students. But Ms. Martinez continued. We are also implementing major changes. All teachers will undergo anti-bias training. We are creating a new system for students to report concerns that goes directly to the district, not just to school principals. We are reviewing grading practices across all schools to identify other potential cases of discrimination. And we are establishing a diversity committee with student representatives. Dr. Williams from the school board stepped forward. Minji, we would like you to consider serving on that diversity committee. Your voice and perspective are valuable. What do you think? Minji looked at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. She looked at her friends, who gave her thumbs up. She thought about all the students who had shared their stories with her, all the people who had felt unseen and unheard. Yes, Minji said. I will do it. If it helps make school better for everyone, I want to be part of it. After the presentation, there was a small reception. People came up to congratulate Minji and take photos with her and her project. A reporter from the local news interviewed her. The newspaper photographer took more pictures. Marcus's mother, the lawyer, pulled Minji aside. Several universities have reached out, she said. They have been following your story. They want you to know that when you are ready for college, you will have options. Good options. Minji felt overwhelmed again. She was only 14. College felt far away. But it was nice to know that her future might be bright despite everything that had happened. That evening, Minji's project was set up in the main hallway of the school for everyone to see. A special plaque was placed next to it. This presentation by Minji Park represents the best of what education should be. Rigorous research, creative expression, and courageous truth-telling. May it inspire all students to use their voices for justice. Minji stood in the hallway with her mother looking at the display. Students walking by stopped to read it. Teachers paused to admire it. Some people took photos. How do you feel? Her mother asked. Minji thought about the question. How did she feel? 3 weeks ago she had felt destroyed, humiliated, erased. But now, I feel heard, Minji said. I feel like what I have to say matters. I feel like I belong. Her mother hugged her tight. You always belonged, my daughter. Now others finally see what I have always known. That you are strong, brave, and worthy of respect. Life at Riverside High School changed after Minji's presentation. It was not a huge dramatic change all at once. But small things were different. Better things. In the hallways, students said hello to Minji. Not just her close friends, but other students too. Some were kids she had never talked to before. They would nod or smile or say, "Hey, Minji," as they passed. It felt good to be seen as a person, not just the quiet immigrant girl in the corner. Teachers were different too. They were more careful about how they spoke to all students. They asked questions about how to pronounce names correctly. They included more diverse examples in their lessons. It was like everyone was more aware now, more thoughtful. Mrs. Henderson's replacement was Mr. Thompson, a younger teacher who had previously taught at a diverse school in the city. He was enthusiastic and fair. On his first day, he introduced himself to the class and said something Minji would never forget. "I believe every student has valuable perspectives to share," Mr. Thompson said. "Your backgrounds, your cultures, your experiences, these are not obstacles to learning. They are assets. They make our classroom richer." Minji felt tears prick her eyes. This was what she had wanted all along. Just to be valued. Just to feel like her presence added something good instead of taking something away. The diversity committee that Dr. Williams had mentioned became real. It was made up of 5 students, 3 teachers, 2 parents, and 1 community member. Minji was the freshman representative. The other student representatives were Sarah, who was a sophomore, Marcus as a junior representative, a senior named Deshawn, and another sophomore named Alicia. Their first meeting was in the school library conference room. Dr. Williams facilitated, but she made it clear that this was a student-led initiative. "We are here to listen and learn," Dr. Williams said. "What do students need to feel safe and supported? What changes would make this school more welcoming for everyone?" The students had a lot to say. They talked about representation in curriculum. Why was history class mostly about white European Americans? Why were there so few books by authors of color in English class? Why did science class rarely mention contributions from non-Western scientists? They talked about disciplinary practices. Statistics showed that Black and Latino students received harsher punishments for the same behaviors as white students. Why was that acceptable? They talked about school events and holidays. The school celebrated Christmas with decorations everywhere. But what about Diwali, Lunar New Year, Ramadan? Why were some cultures honored while others were invisible? Deshawn, the senior representative, brought up athletics. "The basketball team gets huge funding and support," he said. "But the soccer team, which has mostly Latino players, barely gets new equipment. We practice on a field with holes in it while the football team has a perfect field. Why?" These conversations were not always comfortable. Some teachers got defensive. Some parents pushed back. But the conversations kept happening. And slowly, changes began. The English department added more diverse authors to the curriculum. The history department created units on immigration, civil rights, and global contributions to American development. The school started marking cultural celebrations beyond just the Christian holidays. Minji helped plan the first Lunar New Year celebration at Riverside High. They decorated the cafeteria with red lanterns. Student volunteers taught others how to make dumplings. There was a performance of traditional Korean fan dancing. It was beautiful and joyful. Minji's mother came and cried happy tears to see her daughter's culture celebrated this way. About a month after her presentation, Minji received an unexpected phone call. It was from a national education organization called Students for Educational Equity. They had seen the video and followed her story. "We would like to invite you to speak at our national conference," the representative said. "We host 500 educators from across the country. Your story could help teachers understand why representation and inclusion matter." Minji was terrified. "I do not know how to give a speech to that many people," she told her mother. "You spoke to a packed auditorium at the school board meeting," her mother reminded her. "You presented your project in front of everyone. You can do this too." Ji-won offered to help her prepare. They worked together for 2 weeks, crafting Minji's speech and practicing delivery. Ji-won taught her tips about public speaking, making eye contact, using pauses for emphasis, varying her tone to keep people engaged. The conference was in Washington, D.C. Minji had never been to the nation's capital. The organization paid for her and her mother to fly there and stay in a hotel. It felt like a dream. The night before her speech, Minji could not sleep. She stood at the hotel window looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there was the White House, the Capitol building, the monuments to leaders in history. This was the center of American power, and tomorrow she would use her voice here. The conference hall was enormous. Minji peeked out from backstage and saw hundreds of people taking their seats. Teachers, principals, education professors, policymakers. All these adults who had dedicated their lives to education. And they were going to listen to her, a 14-year-old girl. When they called her name, Minji walked out on stage. The lights were bright. She could not see individual faces in the audience, just a sea of people. She reached the podium and adjusted the microphone. "My name is Minji Park," she began. 3 months ago, I was just a quiet student trying to do well in school. Today, I am standing in front of you because a teacher tried to silence me. But she failed. She told her story. She described the assignment and her research. She explained why she chose to focus on immigrant contributions. She talked about the hours of work and her mother's help. Then she described the destruction of her project and the words Mrs. Henderson had said. "When my teacher tore up my project, she was not just destroying cardboard and paper," Minji said. "She was trying to destroy my sense of belonging. She was trying to tell me that my perspective did not matter, that my community's contributions did not count, that I was less than." The audience was completely silent and focused. "But here is what I learned," Minji continued. "One person's hate cannot erase the truth. And the truth is that America has always been built by people from everywhere. We are all threads in the same fabric. Remove any thread, and the whole thing becomes weaker." She talked about the investigation and the changes happening at her school. She talked about the diversity committee and the work they were doing. She talked about how one video sparked a conversation that led to real action. "Teachers, you have so much power," Minji said. "You can make a student feel valued or worthless. You can open minds or close them. You can build bridges or walls. Every day you make choices about how to see your students. Please choose to see all of us. Please choose to believe that every student has something important to contribute." She ended with a call to action. Look at your classrooms. Look at your curriculum. Look at whose voices are heard and whose are silenced. Then ask yourself, what can I do to make sure every student feels like they belong? That is the question that will change education. That is the question that will change lives. The applause was thunderous. People stood up. Minji saw some teachers wiping their eyes. The conference organizer came on stage and hugged her. As Minji walked off stage, several people were waiting to talk to her. A white teacher from Texas shook her hand. "I needed to hear this," he said. "I teach in a school that is becoming more diverse, and I have been afraid of saying the wrong thing. But you helped me understand that trying is better than staying silent." A black principal from Chicago thanked her. "What you said about every thread mattering, that hit home. I am going to use that metaphor with my staff." An Asian American teacher from California hugged her. "Thank you for speaking up. When I was a student, I stayed quiet because I did not want to cause trouble. You are braver than I was." Back home in Riverside, Minji's speech was posted on the organization's website. It was shared thousands of times. Reporters started calling again for interviews. Local newspapers wrote feature stories. But Minji tried to stay focused on just being a student and doing her work. One afternoon, Sarah found Minji at her usual spot in the library. "Hey, you got a letter," Sarah said, handing her an envelope. "It came to the school office. They said it was important." Minji opened the envelope carefully. Inside was an official-looking letter on heavy paper. As she read it, her eyes got wider and wider. "What is it?" Sarah asked. "It is from the National Youth Leadership Awards," Minji said, her voice shaking. "They want to give me an award for courage and advocacy." Sarah squealed and hugged her. "That is amazing. When is the ceremony?" "Next month, in New York City." Minji could not believe it. First, Washington, D.C. Now, New York. Places she had only seen in pictures were becoming real. She ran home to tell her mother. Her mother read the letter and cried. "Your father would be so proud," she said. "So very proud." The next weeks flew by. Minji tried to focus on her regular schoolwork, but there were also speeches to prepare, interviews to do, and ceremonies to plan for. The Korean American Business Association organized a fundraiser to help pay for Minji and her mother to go to New York. The community raised $3,000 in just 1 week. Mr. Kim from the Business Association called it an investment in our future. He explained, "Minji shows every young person in our community that their voice matters, that they do not have to accept injustice, that they can stand up and make change. That is worth supporting." The National Youth Leadership Awards ceremony was held in a beautiful theater in Manhattan. Minji wore a traditional Korean hanbok that the Korean American community had given her as a gift. It was deep blue silk with silver embroidery. She felt like a princess. There were 5 award recipients. A boy from Florida who had organized beach cleanups and saved sea turtles. A girl from Ohio who started a program to collect books for low-income schools. A boy from Arizona who created an app to connect homeless youth with resources. A girl from Oregon who advocated for better mental health services in schools. And Minji. Each recipient got to give a short acceptance speech. When it was Minji's turn, she walked to the stage feeling surreal. A year ago, she was just trying to survive high school. Now she was being honored for leadership. "I did not plan to be an advocate," Minji said into the microphone. "I just wanted to do my homework." But sometimes life pushes you into a bigger role. Sometimes standing up for yourself means standing up for everyone. She thanked her mother, who was crying in the audience. She thanked Sarah, Marcus, and Emily for standing with her. She thanked her community for supporting her. She thanked the people who shared the video because they cared about justice. "This award is not just for me," Minji said. "It is for every student who has felt invisible. Every kid who was told they do not belong. Every young person who wondered if their voice mattered. It does matter. You matter. We all matter." After the ceremony, there was a reception. Minji met the other award recipients and their families. They took pictures together. They exchanged phone numbers and social media contacts. They promised to stay in touch and support each other's work. A woman in an elegant suit approached Minji. "Hello. I am Dr. Patricia Chen. I am the Dean of Admissions at Columbia University." Minji's eyes went wide. Columbia was one of the best universities in the country. "I wanted you to know that we have been following your story," Dr. Chen said. "What you have shown, the courage, the leadership, the commitment to justice, these are qualities we value deeply. When you are ready for college in a few years, I hope you will consider applying. I think you would be an excellent addition to our community." Minji thanked her, barely able to believe what she was hearing. Columbia University was interested in her? A girl who just 3 months ago was crying in a school bathroom? On the plane ride home, Minji looked out the window at the clouds below. Her mother was sleeping beside her, exhausted from all the excitement. Minji thought about everything that had happened. Mrs. Henderson had tried to break her, but instead, she had revealed her strength. The teacher's hate had sparked a fire that was spreading. Not a fire of anger or revenge, a fire of hope and change. Minji thought about all the students who had contacted her through social media. Kids from all over the country sharing their own stories of discrimination and unfairness. She tried to respond to as many as she could, offering encouragement and advice. One message stuck with her. It was from a girl in Texas named Sophia. "I used to think I had to stay quiet to be safe," Sophia wrote. "But you showed me that using your voice is what really keeps you safe, because silence never protected anyone. Thank you for teaching me to be brave." Minji saved that message. On hard days when she felt tired or overwhelmed, she would read it again. It reminded her why all of this mattered. The pilot announced they were beginning their descent. Minji looked down and could see the lights of home below. Riverside looked small from up here, but it was where her journey had started, where her friends were, where her community had rallied around her. She was ready to go back, ready to continue the work, ready to keep using her voice, because now she understood something important. The miracle was not what happened to her. The miracle was what she chose to do with what happened. 6 months ago I felt erased, Minji said. Today I feel seen. We all feel seen. This fair is not just about food and music and dance, though those things are wonderful. It is about recognition. Recognition that every person here has value. Every culture has gifts to share. Every voice deserves to be heard. She paused and looked around the room. Some people are afraid of diversity. They think differences divide us. But look around this room. Diversity is what makes us strong. It gives us more perspectives, more creativity, more understanding, more love. The applause was deafening. People stood and cheered. Minji saw her mother in the crowd crying proud tears. She saw her friends beaming. She saw teachers who had once been uncertain now embracing the change. She saw students who used to feel invisible now shining with pride. The fair was a huge success. People talked about it for weeks afterward. Several other schools in the district asked for help organizing their own multicultural celebrations. The model that Riverside had created was spreading. But beyond the big events and recognition, what mattered most to Minji were the small everyday changes. The way students now asked each other about their backgrounds with genuine curiosity instead of suspicion. The way teachers included diverse examples in every lesson, not just during special occasions. The way the school felt like it belonged to everyone, not just some people. One afternoon in late spring, Minji was studying in the library when a young girl approached her timidly. She looked like a 6th grader from the middle school that shared the campus. "Are you Minji Park?" the girl asked shyly. "Yes," Minji said with a smile. "What is your name?" "I am Fatima. I am from Somalia. My family came here 2 years ago." "Nice to meet you, Fatima. How can I help you?" Fatima sat down nervously. "I saw your speech at the multicultural fair, and I saw your presentation in the hallway. You made me feel like maybe it is okay to be different, like maybe I do not have to try so hard to fit in and hide where I am from." Minji felt her heart squeeze. "You never have to hide who you are, Fatima. Your culture is beautiful. Your story is important." Fatima smiled, but then her expression became serious. "I have a teacher who sometimes says things that hurt, not as bad as what happened to you, but little things. Like she pronounces my name wrong even though I corrected her many times. And she made fun of my accent once. I do not know if I should say something or just ignore it." Minji leaned forward. "You should say something, not in a mean way. Just honestly. Tell her how it makes you feel. And if she does not listen, use the new reporting system. There are people now who will listen and help." "I am scared," Fatima admitted. "I know," Minji said gently. "I was scared too, so scared. But staying silent did not protect me. Speaking up was hard, but it was the only way things could change." Fatima nodded slowly. "Will you help me write what I want to say to her?" "Of course," Minji said. "I will help you find your voice. That is what people did for me. Now I want to do it for others." They spent an hour together. Minji helped Fatima write a respectful but firm letter to her teacher. They practiced what Fatima would say if she decided to speak face to face. By the time they finished, Fatima looked less scared and more determined. "Thank you," Fatima said as she got up to leave. "You are my hero." Minji watched the young girl walk away. She thought about how she used to be exactly like that. Scared, uncertain, wondering if she mattered. Now she was the person younger kids looked up to, the person who could help them find courage. This was the real miracle, not the award ceremonies or the news coverage or the scholarship offers. Those were wonderful, but they were external. The real miracle was internal. It was the transformation from victim to advocate, from silenced to voice, from invisible to visible. That evening, Minji went to visit her father's grave. She did not go often because it made her sad. But today she felt like she needed to tell him about everything that had happened. She sat on the grass next to the small headstone. The cemetery was quiet and peaceful. Birds sang in the trees. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Hi, Dad, Minji said softly. I hope you can hear me. So much has happened since you left. I wish you could see it all. She told him about the project and what Mrs. Henderson had done. She told him about the video going viral and the investigation. She told him about the changes at school and the people who helped her. She told him about the speeches and the awards and the scholarship. Remember how you always said America was special because it welcomed people from everywhere? Minji said. You were right, Dad. Not everyone sees it that way. Some people are afraid of differences. But enough people believe in the dream you believed in. The dream that we all belong, that we all matter. She picked a blade of grass and twirled it between her fingers. I wish you could meet my friends, Sarah and Marcus and Emily and Jiwon. They stood by me when I felt alone. Mom is doing well. She is so proud. She still works hard, but she is happier now. She says I made your dreams come true by refusing to give up. Minji looked up at the sky. I am not scared anymore, Dad. I used to be scared all the time. Scared of being noticed, scared of being different, scared of taking up space. But now I know that being different is not something to hide. It is something to celebrate. You taught me that, even though you are not here anymore. She stood up and placed her hand on the headstone. I love you, Dad, and I promise to keep making you proud. I will keep using my voice. I will keep standing up for what is right. I will keep helping others find their courage. That is my way of honoring you. As Minji walked home from the cemetery, the streetlights were coming on. She passed by the grocery store where her mother worked. She passed by the library where she had spent so many hours researching and rebuilding. She passed by the school where everything had changed. When she reached their apartment building, she saw her mother's light on in the window. Home. Safe. Loved. Valued. Minji climbed the stairs and opened the door. Her mother was cooking dinner, and the apartment smelled like home. How was your day, baby? Her mother asked. Good, Mom. Really good. They ate dinner together, talking about small things and big things. They laughed about a funny customer at the grocery store. They discussed Minji's upcoming finals. They made plans for summer. Normal life. Beautiful, ordinary, precious life. After dinner, Minji went to her room to do homework. But first, she checked her social media. There was a message from Sophia, the girl from Texas who had reached out months ago. Hi, Minji. I wanted to tell you something amazing. I reported my teacher for making racist comments just like you inspired me to do. The school actually listened and investigated. The teacher had to apologize and take training. It worked. I used my voice and it worked. Thank you for showing me how. You changed my life. Minji smiled and typed back, You changed your own life by being brave. I am so proud of you. Keep using that voice. She thought about all the Sophias and Fatimas out there. All the students who felt small and scared and invisible. She could not help all of them directly. But maybe she did not have to. Maybe the miracle was that one voice could spark others. One person's courage could inspire thousands. Minji opened her notebook and started writing. She was working on an essay about her experience for a national writing contest. The prompt was, A time when I found my voice. She wrote, I did not find my voice in a moment of triumph. I found it in a moment of pain. When my teacher tore up my project, she tried to tear up my sense of worth. But she could not. Because worth is not something someone else can give you or take away. It is something you claim for yourself. She continued. The real miracle was not that people paid attention to my story. The real miracle was that I realized I had a story worth telling, that my perspective mattered, that I did not have to accept injustice silently, that I could stand up and say, This is wrong. I deserve better. We all deserve better. Minji wrote late into the night. She wrote about pain and hope, about hate and love, about destruction and creation, about one girl who refused to be erased, and the community that refused to let her disappear. When she finally put down her pen, she felt peaceful. She looked around her small room, at the scholarship letter from Columbia pinned to her bulletin board, at the photos of her friends and family, at the award certificate from New York. at the copy of her recreated project that she kept for herself. These were tokens of her journey, but they were not the journey itself. The journey was internal. It was about becoming someone who understood her own value. Someone who knew that belonging was not something you earned. It was something you claimed. Minji turned off her light and got into bed. Tomorrow was a new day. There would be more challenges, more work to do, more voices to amplify, more changes to make. But she was ready, because she had learned the most important lesson. The miracle was not in the attention or the awards. The miracle was not in the policy changes or the apologies. The miracle was in the moment when a scared, silenced girl decided to speak, and in that speaking, discovered that she had always had power. She had just needed to learn how to use it. Minji closed her eyes and smiled in the darkness. Mrs. Henderson had tried to tear her down, but instead she had revealed Minji's wings, and now Minji was flying, and she was teaching others to fly too. That was the real miracle, and it was just beginning.